welcome to Grey County Life at Home. I'm one of your hosts, Rhonda Brown, and the always delightful Charlie Brown is here, although he is melting into the background. And we have Miss Mary Jane back in her rightful spot. I'm so happy to see you this week, Miss Mary Jane.
Oh, well, thank you, Rhonda. It was an interesting adventure last week, but I am so glad to be back today and going forward as well for other Grey County Life at Home. This is much more fun than where I was last week.
Yes, absolutely. Well, and we've got a busy show today, as always, and the next few weeks, I mean, gee whiz, today when we shoot is actually, and you'll notice that, yes, he's scratching again. So we're still in that little catastrophe at the Brown household. And just to let you, it's December 1st. And Mary Jane, I gotta say, I have gained 5 pounds. And it's December 1st. This is a terribly slippery slope. I am going to be like a little blob on this couch by the time Christmas gets here if we don't rein this in.
Oh.
So that was just a friendly reminder to people to try not to eat too much over the holidays. Oh my goodness. And I have been indulging in homemade hot chocolate, which is ridiculously easy and tasty, Mary Jane, but I gotta stop.
Well, it's that season when we enjoy specialty foods, that's for sure. But always everything in moderation, what we can say. And, you know, our weather hasn't been too bad. So a nice walk outside with Charlie Brown is a good idea as well. I have a treadmill, and we have the treadmill and I have become friends again. And as we do periodically through the year. And so trying to, you know, keep those extra pounds at bay while still enjoying all the seasonal festivities and goodies, to say the least. But before we actually get started into the show, one of the things that I've been listening to on the news quite a bit and quite sad is I just wanted to send out a very heartfelt message to the residents of British Columbia who have just had one tragedy after another. And here we are going into the holiday season, and they're losing their homes, their livestock, their communities are in devastation. And I just trying to balance my heartfelt sadness with the upcoming celebrations that we are so fortunate to have.
Yeah, my problems of gaining an extra 5 pounds at Christmas is so trite compared to what a lot of people are suffering through the holiday seasons and all the time. I mean, my goodness, we are awfully blessed to live in Grey County, Grey and Bruce counties.
We are. And another piece of information that is important to remember is we have already had 2 tragic fires in our community just recently. And I think that we all need to be super heightened aware of candles burning. And as we start lighting up the outside of our homes and our Christmas trees to make sure that we've got the proper wiring for all of this. Mm-hmm. And one of the other things too to think about is when we're cooking in the kitchen, and we are at a time where we're able to have friends and family in safe conditions visiting us, but it's also distracting. And if you're cooking in the kitchen and you're talking or you're leaving things on the stove, so you've got a potential disaster on your hands there as well. And I have 5 little grandchildren running around in other Christmases, which can be very distracting too. And so we just need to be really careful. And so
I don't even need the distractions. I tend to be somebody who cooks, as my late father-in-law used to say, everything was cooked on high and fast. And I was typically very distracted. So yeah, you really do have to pay close attention and be aware.
No. So, and the other thing too, which is to end on a high note, is that, at this time of year, we can recognize, honor, and celebrate the diversity of culture, religions, and traditions that we have in our community. And we're very blessed to have a multicultural community. It may not seem as multicultural as some of the larger centers, but we do have folks from all around the world who are coming into our communities, Grey and Bruce counties, and making it their home and bringing with them their cultures, their religion, and their traditions. And later in the show, we're also going to be talking with members of the Beth Ezekiel Synagogue about Hanukkah. So there is another celebration coming up.
Yeah. You know what? And reaching out to our new neighbors and people in our community that are, maybe not celebrating the same traditions that we are, but are quite curious about it, and just sharing our traditions and things. It's a nice way to create community.
Well, the more we learn about other cultures and traditions and religions, the better we do. Our community becomes more vibrant and more cohesive because we have better understanding.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, it's going to be a fun season for sure for lots of people in our area. And if you haven't been down to the Festival of Northern Lights to see just the lights in the nighttime with the snow falling, it is so beautiful. So we're looking forward to that for sure. I think maybe that's where I could take Charlie for a little walk too, to get us, a little more active would be a good thing as always. Good suggestion, Miss Mary Jane.
Well, we also have to think about the folks who don't have the economic stability or the homes that we are comfortable in. We also need to think about the community members who need some support.
Absolutely. And we'll be back after these messages with Francesca Dobbin from United Way to talk with us about some of that, right?
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Operation Smile, alongside our medical volunteers, provides safe cleft surgery to children free of charge thanks to generous donors like you. That was until we fell into a pandemic.
If you only knew what I'm going.
By December, tens of thousands more children will be waiting for surgery. Please help us keep our promise and deliver smiles to children in need when surgeries resume.
For 25 years, you've been helping to make our roads safer by doing the right thing. You've been the designated driver, you've stayed over, called home, you've called a cab or a friend, and planned ahead. Let's keep doing the right thing. Support sober driving by getting yourself and your friends home safely.
Do the right thing.
Visit ArriveAlive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive. Drive sober.
Frequency Podcast Network, in association with City News, presents The Big Story. Listen to this podcast and many more at citynews.ca or wherever you listen to podcasts. City News, everywhere.
Rolling. Welcome back to Grey County Life at Home. We are happy to host Francesca Dobbin from the United Way. And I think we would like to talk today about the needs of our community members going into this holiday season and the winter season, which, although we've had kind of a light dusting so far of what's to come. I think it's going to be a long, cold winter, at least a lot of snow and temperature fluctuations. And those can be very challenging for our community members to deal with. Francesca, what are we facing this winter?
So from a weather perspective, I've been told that, we're going to have quite the winter again. We're going to be back to a normal winter. It was kind of mild last year, which does put a lot of stress on families from heat, wood shortages for cordwood and all of those issues. And of course, we have a utility assistance program, but it's basically, it's one grant per season. So it's not enough heat to heat a family home for the entire winter. It's a supplement piece for it. And the other challenge going forward is we're seeing a lot of people losing income. The CERB really impacted seniors, those that had small part-time jobs, access the CERB to make up that difference. Their GIS and gains in OAS have been clawed back as a direct result. So we have a lot of seniors that we're trying to keep in their housing right now because they're going to lose it because they can't keep paying the rent because their income's gone down to $900, $800 a month. So we've got a lot of people really struggling in our community from a financial perspective. 211 is there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, can totally connect people to those programs. We have rent relief for people who are experiencing COVID-related income loss and can't pay their rent. We do have a program for that, but it doesn't do mortgages, it doesn't do property taxes. So if you own your own home, it's a bit of a challenge. We do have a financial literacy program. We have Carolyn, who's absolutely wonderful, help people rejig budgets, make sure they're accessing every program that's out there to help them with that budget, to try and get them through to the spring and when income tax is recalculated, because CRA is totally backed up as well in looking at the appeals. So a lot of challenges out there and a lot of people working hard to meet those challenges.
Yeah.
I need to ask, why was there a clawback? Because
So
that's not what my understanding was for folks who were on low income.
So if you were a senior and you had a part-time job, so you worked at Walmart or you worked, waitressing or, or something like that. So you totally qualified for the CERB. You had $5,000 in additional income, employment income in 2019. You qualified for the CERB. You got the CERB to replace that loss of income because, hours were cut, what have you, or you had a medical reason, you're a caregiver to somebody and you couldn't go to work because the risk was too high to your family member. Then you're fine. If you had a contract, self-employment, that kind of piece, and you applied for CERB outside of the employment traditional flows of funds, then CRA didn't count that as employment income. They counted it like they count investment income. So you're allowed on OAS GIS to earn $10,000 before a clawback is triggered. So those that were employed and running through employment streams weren't affected because it was counted as employment. But for contract employees, self-employed, those crafters, small business owners, it was treated as a different type of income. We've been trying to convince everybody's trying to convince the government to go back and just change it so that the CERB for everybody is not clawed back. And it's like, I forget what the number is, but it's thousands of seniors that have been caught up in, and it wasn't clear on CRA's website either at the time. They didn't come out and say, if you're this, we'll treat it this way. And if it's this, we'll treat it that way. And what we found in July, at the end of July, when everybody got their August GIS, OAS, they were in our office going, wait a sec, where's the money? What's going on? And we were on the phone to MP Alex Ruff's office, and they're like, we're trying to get to the bottom of this. And it took months to find out, who was caught up, because it wasn't all seniors, but getting to the bottom of this. And then we're just trying to keep people housed over the winter, going and appealing. People have lost rent rebates because their income went high. And it's just all these unintended consequences of trying to save people's financially in 2020, and the impact after filing taxes for 2021 is pretty significant.
Well, that's not good news. I'm sorry to hear that. But I'm glad to hear that the advocacy is still there and they're still fighting for balance in all of this. So a $500 to $600 utility one-off payment for the entire winter, does that help to stabilize a family and keep them in their home? Or is that going to just keep them going for a little while and still have to access and find other resources?
Totally depends on the family. People who live in apartments and have, a meter and pay their own electricity, and and they've got a couple of warm walls because there's a neighbor here and a neighbor here. It makes a big difference. It can be their electricity for the winter. If you're in an old farmhouse, out on a concession with no trees around it, and the wind just goes in, one crack and goes out the other crack and sucks the heat along with it, it could be 2 months worth of electricity. It's not meant to be, hey, we're paying for your power for, it's meant to supplement. We have people who budget for it every year, and I do not have a problem with that. They're so low income that this program is there for them. It's, the electricity and natural gas is not donor dollars. Oil, wood, and propane is donor dollars. And that's a program that only the United Way Bruce Gray has around oil, wood, and propane.
What does that mean, Francesca? Donor dollars?
So we have to fundraise for the utility program for oil, wood, and propane. There is not a provincial program. There is a provincial program for natural gas and electricity. Because those are monopolies. You're not going to put 6 different companies worth of natural gas lines on a road. So you can't choose. If you wanted to choose a propane company, you've got Superior, you've got Sparlings, you've got Edward Fuels. You can choose from a bunch of different companies. And then, it all depends on who owns the tank. Whereas natural gas, you've got one company and that's it. Electricity, you have one company. You're either West Area or Hydro One. So it's a regulated monopoly. And that's where the Ontario Energy Board is, who regulates that. We put input in on customer service rules. That's who gave us the disconnection ban. So you cannot be disconnected right now, right through till May 1st, the disconnection ban. Pay what you can on your utilities over the winter. We don't want those phone calls on May 1st going, I have a $5,000 bill because I didn't pay because I couldn't be disconnected. It doesn't help anybody, and I can't help. And I'm not going to put any money to it unless you're going to be able to stay connected. That's the challenge with this. But the best thing to do when you're struggling financially is reach out to 211 and say, what are the programs that are out there that can help me get through this? There are Christmas programs for registering for toys. You've got to get in now because they got to go shopping. There are programs for 211 for food banks, for Christmas hampers to give you, and some are actual food and some are grocery gift cards. So you can choose. So, if you're not a family who doesn't like turkey, my daughter hates turkey. I don't know what's wrong with her. I don't think she's my daughter. Who doesn't like turkey? So, it's always ham for her for Christmas. So, and that's the best part about a food bank that chooses to give gift cards is you can choose the food of your culture. You can choose the food of your traditions. I bought mince meat yesterday because I found it. It's the Britain me, whereas my kids are all like, ew, what's that?
Well, I think too, people have dietary needs as well, and the food bank does a really great job and they work very hard, but it's the donations that come into them. It doesn't always cater to some of the dietary needs. And these are health issues that are really important in order to be able to eat the foods that are the best for your body. But you did have a bit of a highlight yesterday down at the United Way. And there was a young fellow who stopped by. Tell us about that.
So that was 6-year-old Liam. And he had heard about our call out for socks. We're looking for winter socks for our homelessness outreach programs. And he dropped by with 2 giant bags of socks and wanted to give socks for that program and warm winter socks. We also have PB Market in PB Market, Owen Sound, and Walkerton doing $1 for a pair. They deep discount their warm socks. So you can do socks there. You can bring socks to our office, and it makes a difference to somebody. A nice, warm, dry, clean pair of socks. With everything else going in the world, it doesn't solve the big problems, but it can make a difference. And feet when your feet are not well, if you're a diabetic, frostbite, all of those things from living rough and being out on the street can be a real challenge. But when we take about 50 pairs of socks per week to the homelessness outreach program, and I'm coming back with empty boxes. So we're going through 50 pairs a week.
Oh my gosh. So if you go to these two locations, PV and
Walkerton and Owen Sound PV Mart, you can buy them. It's called Heat the Feet is their initiative. Starbucks is also kicking off here in Owen Sound. They're collecting socks between now and the 19th at the Owen Sound Starbucks as well. So you can get yourself a nice hot coffee and drop some socks off there too.
It's really important because I don't think that people really think too much about socks as being an essential when you don't have a stable place to live and you're out on the street and having to spend most of your time on the street. That socks are really, they're not a luxury, they're an essential through this winter time. And I had a look at those PV socks and they look really warm.
They're great. And socks is not something you can thrift store.
No.
That's not something that's generally, you can get a sweater, and we work with our thrift store partners for people who, we need extra coats and extra warms things. We can work with those partners that way. But socks, that's a real hygiene piece for people. And what we do with the PV Mart socks is we tape a 2-on-1 card to them. So they become 2-on-1 socks, which is something we did the first time they showed up with 800 pairs of socks from this initiative. And with that 2-on-1 card, it gets given out. We make sure every police service in Grey and Bruce has a stack of socks. So if they're out in the community, they happen to be, doing a drive around at 2:00 in the morning in downtown Chesley, and they see somebody, and their only reason to pay attention is they're out walking at 3 a.m. and they can stop and, how's it going? Can I give you a pair of socks? And it starts a conversation. So it's not I'm a police officer, why are you out? It's, I'm a human being and I'm concerned that you're walking at 3 a.m. and I have a resource for you. It's just a pair of socks, but it's got 2-on-1 on it. Do you know what 2-on-1 is?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's really important that our police services have a different profile particularly at this time of year where you're actually building relationships. And it's really comforting to know that our police services are shifting towards that community service aspect of their job.
Yeah, it's an absolute joy. They're absolutely thrilled. They just started looping back with us in the last couple of weeks saying, "You got socks yet?" We're out. And I'm like, we're working on it.
Well, one of the other things too is there's a lot of isolation through the winter months, and you've also have a program called Seniors Without Walls.
Yeah, we have a senior center without walls. You can find it on our website. It's a phone with a couple of Zoom things as well. So it depends on, but it's telephone. It's totally free. Lots of different programs, lots of different information. A lot of it is fun, as well as chatty. And it's that senior center that, where you'd be able to go and have a cup of tea and a cookie. You're doing it in your own home, but you're on the phone, learning about something or engaging about something or playing a game.
Well, I think it's really important because with everyone who is struggling particularly through this season, what the United Way is doing is building connections on various levels with various groups of people. For folks who are suffering from the lack of being able to pay their bills, but they can still join into your senior center without walls and still have a connection, a social life. And sometimes that just lifts the spirits enough to be able to deal with some of the other challenges that they have.
The most important piece to tell somebody is you're not the only person going through this. You're not the only person who's feeling a little lonely. You're not the only person who feels disconnected from community with everything that we've been going through with this pandemic. And, you're not the only one who's struggling with low income. When we had that Friday with the seniors popping in going, what's going on? It's like by the third one, I'm like, all right, once is coincidence, twice is, it's going on. The third time I'm on the phone. What's going on out there? And what are you seeing and what are you hearing? And that was the response back. What do you know? And that was the reassurance to people that they hadn't done something wrong, that there was something wrong with the system. They were not the only ones enduring this. And then we were going back and clarifying, is this loss of income COVID related enough for our rent program? Because we have provincial dollars to do that. Yes, that is a COVID related income loss. So yes, we can, okay, so let's start paying some rent. Let's get these folks and figure it out. And, but it's only so much money and it's not enough. It's not a year's worth of rent.
Wow.
Well, I can only say that the United Way, Bruce Gray is doing a phenomenal job in our community. And you're working with a broad range of folks who live in our communities who may have answers to some of your solutions or some of your problems. And by donating to the United Way, it supports the folks in our community who are struggling with various issues, not necessarily just low income. Sometimes it's just isolation and needing to know that there are other people out there that can support them in various ways. It's just, you're doing an amazing job and I truly appreciate that. But then you already know that.
We have an amazing team with an amazing staff that just, get to work. And they brainstorm with a team. Somebody can come in with one issue and I've got 3 or 4 staff working on it, and reaching out to different partners throughout the community of what can you do, how do we build this, and really wrapping around and helping people understand what system is out there, and then being really blunt and honest when it doesn't work and when it breaks and when it falls apart.
Well, I think one of the issues too is that not everyone files their income tax. And when you don't file your income tax, you're not eligible for additional benefits.
Yeah, it can be really, a lot of people were scared last year to file, especially if you've taken the CERB because income tax was not assessed. But if you're low income, you're not paying income tax. But your child tax credit, all those seniors benefits come from filing taxes. There are a pile of income tax clinics out there that will do your income tax for free. They are still operating. You can still get, if you haven't done your taxes yet, you can get them done now. If you are 10 years behind, we have programs that will work away with you on that at no cost to you to get those taxes filed.
So the number to call for people if they need to get connected is 211, and that's whether they've got problems with their taxes, their heating bill, loneliness, mental health issues, everything, right?
Smudging is a very important part in our life as we're all learning to walk the good way. When we smudge, we use the sacred medicine, the white sage, the sweetgrass, the tobacco, and the cedar. It cleanses negative energy and replaces it by a positive energy. When I smudge, I cleanse my end and my eagle feather and start cleansing my breath to have better words. I will smudge my eyes so I could see the better things offered to me. I will smudge my ears to hear the good thing that people have to say. I will smudge my hair to have good thinking from my head. I will bring the smudge to my feet so I could walk in respect with our Mother, the Earth. Smudging is the way we give our prayers to connect our spirit to the Creator. We express gratitude for the gift of life, the learning, and growth.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Hello everyone, your host Antoine Hashim here on the couch, and welcome to season 8. Yay! 8 seasons, and we've got a lot of awesome guests coming up, so keep watching.
Welcome back to Great County Life at Home with Rhonda and myself, Mary Jane. And we have 2 really special guests with us today because in our opening, we talked about how important it is to honor and acknowledge the different cultures, traditions, and religions in our community. And today we have Eileen Chartland and Jeff Eli, who are from the Beth Ezekiel Synagogue, and they're going to be talking to us about the Hanukkah celebration at this time of year. Now, welcome Eileen and welcome Jeff, and thank you for taking the time to spend with us this morning. And Eileen, would you like to give us, talk to us about Hanukkah and its significance?
Sure. Thank you very much for having us. We're honored to tell you a little bit about our celebration. This week is Hanukkah. It started on Sunday night. It lasts 8 days, and it's being celebrated by Jews all over the world. It is called the Festival of Lights, and it's called that because of a victory that happened, I would say about 2,300 years ago or so, around 160 BC. It's the story of the Maccabees. At the time, Antiochus was Greek king, and the world was under the Greek Empire. The temple had been destroyed in Jerusalem, and the Jews were forbidden to celebrate their holidays to practice their religion. And there was one group called Judah Maccabee and his family. They were a very small group. They hid in the hills of Judea outside of Jerusalem, and they fought the Greek army, and they won. So it's a story of victory over oppression. And after the fight was over, they went back to the temple, and they found only enough oil to last for 1 day. And the trip to procure more oil took 8 days, round trip. Hence, we celebrate for 8 days. It was a miracle, and that little bit of oil actually lasted all 8 days until they could get back. And so that's why we light a candle every night for 8 nights. Wow. We're going to go on now. Jeff, do you want to jump in at all?
No, I was very succinct. I just want to point out that the oil was used for the menorah in the temple. That needs to be lit continuously.
Thank you. And so up until, I would say even in some groups right now, they still use oil in their menorah as opposed to candles. And you can see behind Jeff, he has
This is
menorahs.
actually an oil menorah. These aren't candle holders. It's little dishes of oil that you put in there and light it.
And many of us go the easy route, and we have our candles rather than oil. I'll straighten that one out. And you can see that I have I have 4 candles because tonight is the 4th night. As I said, it started on Sunday night.
And this is my famous moose menorah, which is quite popular. Menorahs take all sizes and shapes.
Yes.
The only prescribed thing about it is that it has to contain places to hold 8 lights, and plus the shamus, which is the helper that you use to light the candles. And the only thing about the shamus is that it needs to be a little bit higher than the other candles. So in this menorah, for example, the shamus is out here on the end, and in this one it's in the middle. This one it's out front, actually. So they take many forms.
Yes, and I have one right here, which is a group of old men, and you can see that the shamus in the middle is a little bit higher than the others.
So in your tradition, you would light your menorahs every evening, and for how long do you leave it burning for? What is the ceremony each evening around it?
Okay, so we light it in the evening, yes, after dark. We say a prayer we say 2 prayers. On the first night, we say a third, and then after that, we light an extra candle every night. which is why I have 4 candles in my menorah, because tonight is the 4th night. Last night would have been the 3rd, et cetera, et cetera. Tomorrow's the 5th. We always light the shamash first, and then we use that to light the other candles. They burn as long as they burn until they're done. Usually the ones that you buy in the grocery store or wherever last about half an hour, 40 minutes. There are some, if you go down to Toronto or to Thornhill and some of the stores, you'll find a much larger candle, which will burn longer. And I actually have a tiny little menorah which uses birthday candles. So obviously they're not going to burn for very long. There's no real set length of time that they have to burn for. You just let them burn. Okay, so we're now going to talk a little bit about how Hanukkah has evolved and its meaning today. Because it's a story of victory over oppression, it can be related to the world today. There are many stories of victory over oppression. There are many stories of people who are being put down, who are not allowed to practice their religion, who are in jeopardy, their lives are in jeopardy. And it doesn't matter what country or what part of the world you go to, you're going to find something like that. And so we try at this time of the year to help others. We give charity, there's a word for it called tzedakah, and we donate to causes that we feel very close to, and we feel that we can help. It really is a story of freedom winning out. So we'll go on to traditions now. Some of the traditions, we talked about lighting the menorah. The menorah is actually what we call a Hanukkah. And the reason that it's, the general term menorah can be a candelabra with 6 lights, for example. But a Hanukkah always has 8 plus the shamash. And so we refer it colloquially as a menorah. Its true name is a Hanukkah. The other things, as I said, we light a different candle every night. We have special foods. We eat something called Laccas, and I will show you there. I don't know if I can pick one up. It's a potato pancake, and it's fried in oil. And again, because the oil commemorates the oil that burned for 8 days, donuts are also very popular, jelly donuts in particular. And again, because they're fried. So it's really fried foods. And in Hebrew, a donut, or the special donuts that we eat, are called sufganiyot. And unfortunately, we can't buy them here in Owen Sound. We have to go down towards Toronto, but they're very good, and get them. I will get them at the end of the week. During the time that the candles are burning, the children usually play games with these little these tops called Dreidels. I don't know how well you can see it. There's one, and I think I'll get another one in a minute. But they come in all sizes and shapes, and they spin. And so you just turn it like that, and it spins. And the dreidel, here's a big one. This is a ceramic one, so you don't really play with it. But you notice that there are letters in Hebrew: Shin, Hey, what's that one? A Hey, a Gimel, and a Nun, which is basically an N, an H, and a G. Nun. And so each of the letters means something in the game. Like Nun means that you don't pick any up. They play with coins or whatever, tokens. And so it's, you get one, you take one from the pot, et cetera, et cetera. But the letters actually mean a great miracle happened here, if you translate it, and that's why we have those letters. In actual fact, that came from back in the Maccabee time when the Jews were hiding out and they couldn't practice their religion. This was the way that the rabbis had the children learn their Hebrew letters. They were playing a game, and the Greeks didn't know what the game meant, but that was the purpose behind it. Often Hanukkah is associated, because of the time of the year, with Christmas, and it's blown up, shall we say. Hanukkah actually isn't a very significant holiday. I mean, it's important because it's victory over, being oppressed. But we have many other holidays that are way more important. So typically we don't decorate the houses. We don't really give gifts, etc. That's something that has happened over time. It's more of a North American, people have to kind of keep up with Christmas. They want the kids to feel like they're getting something. So they get a gift every night for 8 nights, and they're usually small ones, maybe 1 or 2 big ones. They're decorated. I have some decorations up here in my house. You can see maybe behind me, there's something here, and there's a dreidel on the wall over here, just because it makes me happy. There's really no reason to do it, but I like doing it, so I do it. Other than that, just going back here, that's really all we do. It's a nice family time. We get together with friends and family. Of course, in these last couple of years, we've not gotten together as often, but we're hoping that we can start off slowly and celebrate together.
Well, I'm hoping, Eileen, that when you were talking about Hanukkah being one of your traditions and that you have other high holidays that were perhaps a little more important, we can have you come back and talk about the other important celebrations that you have in the Jewish faith. But I just wanted to jump in and just ask Jeff a little bit more about the synagogue and some of its history, because I did a little research and I learned quite a bit, and it's just amazing to me. Jeff, how long has the synagogue been in Owen Sound?
Well, there's been a Jewish community in Owen Sound for almost 150 years. Pretty much when settlers came in, there were Jewish people among them, and they established businesses and shops and trades and things like that. The organized Jewish community began around the 1890s, and it occupied a number of upstairs rooms in downtown buildings for a while. And in the mid 40s, I think it was 47, 48, the Jewish community purchased this building, which was originally a church, but it faced the right way because synagogues need to face east, and this building was kind of ideal for it. And we've been in here ever since. The Jewish community is very strong and vibrant. We're very proud to be Owen Sounders. There are those among us who grew up here. We've raised our families here. We're part of the community. There's been city councilors from our community and so forth throughout Owen Sound's history. And as far as Hanukkah goes, we've celebrated it here, obviously among ourselves at the shul, which is what we call the synagogue. But we also celebrate it as part of the Owen Sound community. The reason that we put our Hanukkahs in the windows when they're lit is so that we can celebrate with the community how lucky we are, and this takes place all over the world, how lucky we are as a people to be able to express our religious beliefs and celebrate our religion without the fear of oppression that took place in Antiochus' time. That can't always be said to be true throughout history since Judah and the Maccabees, but today and here and now, we're comfortable with what we are. We have a very good relationship with the Owen Sound community. We display our holiday is the Festival of Lights, and Owen Sound has the Festival of Northern Lights. But we put a Hanukkah in among the displays of the Festival of Northern Lights here in Owen Sound. And that again is the symbolic way of putting our menorahs in our windows. We do that through our Hanukkah on display at the Festival of Northern Lights.
Well, I understand that the Beth Ezekiel Synagogue and its congregation or members are very open and inclusive within our community. And Eileen, in a previous conversation with Eileen, mentioned that in the past that you've been able to host grade 12 students who come into the synagogue and learn about the Jewish religion.
Yeah, and that, outreach is part of what we do here. Jewish education is number one for our children and for ourselves. But a big part of what we do is outreach in order for the community to understand better who we are. And that takes place through tours, open houses, doors open, events like Rhythm and Jews a few years ago. And of course, the school board participates in that. In fact, for many years before COVID, the Catholic school board or the Catholic school here in Owen Sound required that their graduating class have a tour and a talk at the synagogue as part of their graduation requirements. And that to me is the back and forth that we've enjoyed here in Owen Sound, and what makes this place special for us.
Well, one of the things that is special is your windows. And I understand there's quite a significance about the windows.
Yeah, the windows, I think there are 16 windows. Each window tells a story. This is in the synagogue, they're stained glass. I'm gonna turn the camera around because you can have a glimpse of them. This is the, looking back towards the back of the synagogue, you can see a window on the left-hand side there. There's a set of two. There's 16 of these windows altogether. Each one tells a story of the family who sponsored it. And these were put in at a time that the synagogue was going through some real existential challenges. Membership was dwindling. People started to drift away. Young people moved away. And we started this window program as a way of reestablishing ourselves as a community. And it really did the job because we had the opportunity to sit down and design these windows to tell the story of each of our families, how we ended up in Owen Sound through images, what we believe is important in our faith and our culture, and so forth.
Wow, Jeff and Eileen, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing with us the tradition of Hanukkah and the Menorah and your beautiful, beautiful synagogue and welcoming us into it. Don't forget to join us on Great County Life at Home next week.
We're going to be talking with the YMCA Peace Medal Award and the recipient.
I'm Callie Jones, defenseman with the Owen Sound Attack. Go behind the scenes with your favorite team on Attack Craft every Tuesday on Rogers TV.
Welcome back to Grey County Life at Home. It's one of our favorite segments, Adorable Adoptables with Miss Renee. And I know that last week was Grover on the show last week?
He was.
And yes, so we were just talking before we came back on the show that Miss Mary Jane really liked Grover. So we're on a mission to find a puppy for Miss Mary Jane. Can't wait. Charlie and I will have to come over for a visit once that happens. But Miss Renee, who do we have on your chest today?
I have one of two kittens. The other kitten has just made a leap for it and is no longer in my arms and is contained in the room I'm in, which is a good thing, but he's probably not coming back to make an appearance. These two little ones, however, look exactly the same. So you can just imagine that I have two like this in my hand instead of one. These little ones are just under 8 weeks of age, and they were found last week in the snow, which is super duper sad, because I mean, we're happy they were found, really sad they were living in the snow. What we're finding now with the temperature change, that we're getting a lot more of these calls where people have had outdoor cats maybe living under their porch or maybe in their garage, and now it's getting cold and they're calling me, which we're glad for. But on the other end of things, we want to maybe make a plea to people who have been considering getting a cat or a kitten to maybe reach out to us now, because this would be a good time for us, for you to adopt. As everyone is aware, we are a no-kill shelter. And what that means is, thankfully, we don't euthanize anybody to make space for the next one. And the good news is that we are very successful with that. But to have that happen, we rely on adoptions. And so, of course, it's a plea for people who have been thinking. Now, if you're not already doing the process, talking about getting a new family member, talking about a cat, I don't want you to feel bad and call us. This is more for somebody who's wondering if now is the right time or if they should wait to the spring. The thought is maybe consider now for the sake of these little guys, because they're looking to get in out of the cold and they're looking for a place to go. Of course, no pressure with that. And of course, if you have an outdoor cat that you are looking for a safe place for, you don't have to feel bad. You can still call me. We'll work it out. But it's just more or less if you're still looking. Now, another thing I should mention, people don't realize that we're still getting kittens. People know that the springtime is a kitten time. It is, but we are still getting them in the fall. So if you, or in the winter, I guess it is. So if you're looking for a kitten, certainly give us a call, whether it be about these guys or about somebody else. Maybe you have a certain color preference, or whether you have a preference for long-haired or short-haired or male or female, call us. What we do is have a list, and on that list, it's all organized by breed and type and style. And when we have what you're looking for come in, we call you. And it makes the whole process a whole lot easier. These little ones, for example, we post them on the internet. We'll have about 100 people who might be interested from all over the place, which is awesome. But if you were looking for something specific, like maybe this guy, you might lose the opportunity. So it gives us an advantage to sort of control things a little bit better, and it helps us organize the right match, so the right kitten for the right home. For example, this little guy, he's afraid of toddlers because toddlers are loud and they chase cats around, and he's afraid of that. So he would be maybe better suited to a home with older children. And this would give us the opportunity to match him in that sort of situation. Now, he is available, as I said, and is 8 weeks of age. He's got his vaccines now, and he's been dewormed and defleed, and he's litter trained. And as you can see, he's quite content to sit on my lap. Now, his little friend is less likely to sit on your lap, which we've seen as he's now been removed from the equation of the TV time. What's the matter? But he is also quite social, so there's no worries on that end. You make a happy face and a less sad face. You're looking for your brother. I'm sorry, he's over there. The joys of doing things this way. I mean, the good news is we've not lost the kitten in the station, so that's good. For that, but I just can't catch him while I'm sitting here, which makes that a little bit difficult. So these guys, again, two brothers, we'd love to see them go together, but no pressure with that. They are good with dogs and cats and older children. We can certainly match them to the right place that way. Right? Right.
Do they have names?
They do not. They don't. We're just calling them the little brown guys in the bottom right page, but you guys can call them whatever you want to. Or something like that, just, I don't know.
Well, when I saw them, I actually wrote down, as you know, I track all the animals on the show, and I just automatically Snowball and Snowflake.
Perfect.
They were
Snowball and
found,
Snowflake.
and I'm sure whoever adopts them will give them a better name. But an animal needs a name, you know. So being found in the snow, that just sparked my imagination. Snowball.
There you are. You can be Snowball because you stayed here, and Snowflake is your friend who has left. Yeah.
They are adorable. They are absolutely beautiful. And I love the idea of people calling in or writing in or touching base with you to let you know what it is that they are looking for their family. That's a great way to find a forever home for your animals there. Yeah.
Absolutely. It has made the whole process easier and has a greater success rate. Because we can take our time, there's no rush, we can match the right pet with the right home, and we are open still by appointment only. So the good news is we can schedule that at their convenience as opposed to opening the door and having 20 other people in the building, right? So it helps keep things controlled and organized, which is nice too. Right? Better for you.
And if people want to donate any supplies, Renee, would they make an appointment? Can they just drop things off at your door? Is that probably a risky thing, you know, especially if it's food, but they can contact you if they want to make some donations through this season?
Absolutely. Do prefer you drop it at the door. With our COVID protocol, we have to leave stuff sitting outside for a period of time before we bring it in the building. So you can certainly donate dog food, cat food. We have a big demand for kitten food right now because of you guys. We have a need for cleaning supplies, or something that people often have that they don't think about donating is newspapers, old towels, blankets. All of those sort of things we can use all year round, but especially right now because it is a little colder, so blankets are in high demand. Again, just leave them at the door at any time and we'll get them when we can.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Renee, for coming on for the Adorable Adoptables, and we hope that the boys, Snowflake and Snowball, find a warm, welcoming home for the holidays.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
Think it's okay to drive high? Think again. Drug-impaired driving is as illegal as drunk driving, and in Ontario, the penalties are the same. If police suspect you're driving